Okay, picture this. I'm standing behind a potted fig tree in a restaurant I used to love, watching my husband drop down on one knee for a woman who is absolutely, positively not me. And the wild part? The first thing I felt wasn't even heartbreak. It was relief. Straight up relief. Because for 11 months, some tired, worn down part of me already knew. And there's a very specific kind of peace that hits when the thing you've been bracing for finally happens and you go, oh, I can stop holding my breath now. I had a ring box in my coat pocket too, by the way. Different ring. One I bought for him, engraved on the inside, still choosing you, because I actually thought, I know, that after a rough year we needed a redo. A clean restart. He was 3 feet away from me, on one knee, holding out a box I did not recognize, saying words I recognized real well. That fig leaf was cold against my cheek. I remember that detail more than almost anything else from that night, the dumb, specific coolness of a leaf pressed to my face while my marriage ended 4 feet away in front of 40 strangers and a wine list nobody was reading anymore. So here's what I need y'all to sit with, 'cause I sat with it a long time before I got the answer. At what point does a marriage stop being a marriage and start being a whole production you weren't even cast in? Name's Mara, 34. I fly for a living, not as a pilot, as a corporate travel consultant, which basically means I live in airport lounges negotiating hotel rates for execs who've never once bothered learning my name. Derek and I had been married 6 years, together 9. We met at a friend's cookout where he torched 3 hot dogs in a row and laughed at himself so easy that I clocked it right there, paper plate in hand. Yeah, this is the guy. Someone who can laugh at his own mess. Our apartment always smelled like the eucalyptus candle I never remembered to blow out, and Derek's side of the closet was a graveyard of gray blazers, 'cause he worked at a mid-sized investment firm downtown, lobby fountain, coffee machine that cost more than my first car, the whole 9 yards. Every single morning, he left the top drawer of his dresser cracked open half an inch, no matter how many times I asked him to close it, and every morning I just closed it myself and said nothing. Looking back, that was basically a preview of the whole marriage, the small stuff you let slide, one thing at a time, till letting stuff slide just becomes your whole personality. His boss was a woman named Vanessa Cho. Sharp, magnetic, the type who remembers your dog's name and uses it like a little weapon. I'd met her twice. Once at the firm's holiday party, wearing a green dress that made every other woman in the room look like an afterthought, and once at a work dinner where she ordered for the whole table without asking anybody, then laughed and went, "Hope that's okay. I just have very strong opinions about Branzino." Both times she held my hand a beat too long and said, "So this is the famous Mara," like I was a rumor she'd finally confirmed in person. My best friend Priya never trusted her, not for a second. "She doesn't look at you like a wife," Priya told me once, over wine neither of us finished, feet up on her coffee table, some reality show muted behind us. "She looks at you like competition." I laughed it off. "She's his boss, Pri. Not his prom date. I'm just saying, women like that don't have strong opinions about Branzino for fun. They do it to remind the whole table who's actually running things." I should have written that one down. But real talk, I was carrying a wound way older than Derek. My dad left my mom for his office manager when I was 11, and I spent my whole adolescence watching my mother second-guess her own brain in real time. Was he distant cause of work, or cause of her? Was that perfume on his jacket her imagination, or her gut talking? I remember her standing at the stove one night, stirring a pot she wasn't even cooking, just stirring, mumbling to herself, "I don't even know what I'm allowed to be upset about anymore." Somewhere around 16, standing in a kitchen that smelled like burnt coffee and grief, I made myself a promise. I was never going to let a marriage gaslight me out of trusting my own 2 eyes. So when I started clocking the late nights, the phone flipped face down, the sudden showers when he got home instead of before he left, I told myself I was doing the exact thing I swore I'd never do. Being my mom. Being paranoid.
I was not being paranoid. The Denver trip was supposed to run through Valentine's Day, client conference, 3 nights, a hotel room with a view of a parking structure and, if you really leaned out the window, half a Chili's sign. I'd already made peace with spending February 14th solo in a Marriott, sad room service pasta, FaceTiming Derek at 9 p.m. his time, both of us pretending a phone screen was basically the same as a table for 2. Then the client canceled 2 sessions, the airline had an earlier seat, and my brain went, wait, I could surprise him. Show up with the cheesy grocery store roses and the ring box I'd been hauling around my suitcase for 2 weeks like a nervous teenager, and finally say the thing I'd been chickening out on, that I wanted us to renew our vows. For real this time. The way you mean it after you've almost lost it. Because we had almost lost it. 8 months earlier Derek pulled so far away from me that I started sleeping with the bedroom door cracked, like distance itself needed an exit route. He stopped reaching for me in his sleep. How was your day turned into one-word answers, then eventually just a shrug. I thought we were healing. I thought the silence was just us finding our way back, the way you convince yourself a wound's closing 'cause you finally stopped poking at it. Landed at 4:40 p.m. Texted him from baggage claim, thumb hovering over the exclamation point twice before I let myself send it, surprise, I'm early. Dinner tonight? No reply for 2 hours. Then, one line, sent while I was already in the cab, already grinning at the driver, already rehearsing what I'd say walking in, can't tonight, big client dinner, sorry babe. Tomorrow? I had the cab pull over in the airport parking garage so I could think, roses wilting in the passenger seat, and something in my chest went dead quiet, the kind of quiet right before a storm rolls in. I didn't decide to follow him. I decided to see him. There's a difference, I told myself, even though I could hear how thin that difference actually was. I just wanted a glimpse of my husband's face on Valentine's Day, even from across a room. I still had his calendar synced to mine from way back, when we still shared everything on default, back when a shared calendar felt like intimacy instead of receipts. Dinner reservation at Altamira, 3 blocks from his office. Table for 2, 7:30, under his name. The floor didn't just shift under me. It caved in. Got to Altamira at 7:15, asked the hostess if I could wait at the bar for my husband. She gave me that customer service smile, already looking past me, and said his table was already seated. I looked past her shoulder and saw Vanessa Cho in a red dress, laughing at something, her hand resting on the tablecloth inches from Derek's. Candlelight doing candlelight things to 2 people who already thought they were the main characters of the whole evening. I didn't storm over, gotta be real about that, 'cause in the version I'd imagined for years, the one where I finally catch him, I'm flipping tables, making a scene big enough to match the size of the betrayal. Instead I just stood dead still at the edge of the bar, ordered a wine I never touched, condensation dripping onto my knuckles, and watched my husband lean toward another woman with the exact same head tilt he used to give me. Same tilt. Same hand thing he does when he's making a point. Like watching a bootleg version of My Own Marriage, badly dubbed, different lead actress. There was one moment, where I almost let myself believe it was innocent. Work dinner. Bad timing. I built that excuse brick by brick in my head, the way you build a house you already know is gonna flood. Maybe it's a deal celebration, maybe it's a going away dinner, maybe I'm about to feel real stupid in a parking lot. Then Vanessa said something and Derek reached across and tucked a strand of hair behind her ear. Nah. You don't do that for your boss. Not even close. I called Priya from the bathroom, voice so calm it scared even me, not peace, just shock wearing Peace's outfit. I think I'm about to watch something happen, I told her, gripping the sink, and I don't think I'm gonna survive watching it, but I also can't leave. Mara. Leave. Right now. Call me from the car. I can't, Pri. I gotta see it. I've spent 8 months telling myself I was losing it. I need to see this with my own eyes so nobody, including me, can talk me out of it later. She went quiet, exhaled long and slow, the sound of somebody deciding not to argue with a person standing at the edge of something. Then she said the thing I'd carry with me forever after, okay. Then I'm staying on this phone with you the whole time. You are not doing this alone, even from here. That's Priya for you. Not the friend who tells you what to do. The friend who stays on the line while you go do the hard thing anyway. I went back to my spot by the fig tree, phone pressed to my ear, line still open, Priya's breathing basically the only thing keeping me upright. And that's when the manager walked up with a bottle of champagne I definitely hadn't ordered, and the whole restaurant seemed to lean in half an inch, the way a room does right before it becomes a story somebody tells later. Derek stood up. And here's the detail that flipped the whole script for me: he wasn't nervous. Wasn't some guy caught red-handed, sweating through his shirt, fumbling. He was glowing. Looked exactly like he did on our wedding day, same easy, wide-open joy, except aimed at somebody else. And it hit me, this wasn't a slip-up. This was a decision. Made a long time ago. He just never bothered mentioning it. He reached into his jacket. Not the pocket where he keeps his phone. The inside pocket. Closest to his heart. Where 6 years ago, he kept a ring for me on a rooftop in October, wind wrecking my hair in every single photo we took after. I thought about the joint account we opened for a house down payment, money I'd been quietly dumping into every month, picturing a kitchen we hadn't even picked out yet. I thought about how I put my own promotion on hold last spring 'cause he said he needed me present, needed me home more, needed me, and I actually believed that meant he needed me, not just needed someone off his scent, someone whose travel schedule made certain nights real convenient. I thought about my mom in that kitchen 23 years ago, stirring a pot she wasn't even cooking, and I understood, crystal clear, almost violently clear, I was not about to become her. Not 'cause my situation was different. It wasn't. But because I was not gonna spend the next decade doubting what my own 2 eyes had just shown me. Mara, Priya said quiet through the phone. Talk to me. What's happening? He's about to propose, I said, my own voice sounding far away, like it was coming from somebody standing behind me. To his boss. In the restaurant where he proposed to me. Silence. Then Priya, steady as always, the kind of steady that only comes from actually loving somebody, then it's time to decide what kind of night this is gonna be. I could have left. That was the real option on the table, the one you can't take back once you skip it, walk out before he even gets the words out, let him find out secondhand, later, that his own wife watched the whole thing and just chose to vanish instead of giving him a reaction to feed off of. Let him wonder forever whether I knew, whether I cared enough to stick around and watch. For like 10 seconds, that felt like power. Straight up. But somewhere in those 10 seconds I thought about every year my mom spent wondering if she'd overreacted, underreacted, imagined it, invited it, deserved it, years spent apologizing for a betrayal that was never hers to apologize for. I thought about how staying quiet never once protected her. It only ever protected him, gave him room to write his own version of the story with nobody around to argue back. So I made the decision that changed everything, small as it looked from the outside, set my roses down on the host stand, pulled the ring box out of my coat pocket, and walked toward the table. Not to scream. Not to throw a drink, though God knows some petty part of me wanted the drama, wanted to do something loud with my hands. I walked over because I understood, dead clear, that the version of me who stayed quiet right now would have to keep staying quiet for the rest of this marriage, and I was done auditioning for a role nobody ever actually cast me in. My legs didn't even feel like mine. I remember the exact texture of the carpet under my heels, the low murmur of other people's dinners, someone's fork clinking a plate off to my left, regular sounds happening around the least regular moment of my life. The single most important line of this whole night, the one that basically told me exactly who I was choosing to be, was something I said to myself in the 8 steps it took to cross that restaurant floor. I am not the thing that happens to me. I am what I do next. Derek was mid-sentence, because from the day I met you, I knew that whatever I had at home wasn't, when he clocked me. His face didn't just fall. It emptied out completely, all that glow draining in real time, like watching a light switch flip in slow motion. Vanessa turned, and I watched confusion slide into recognition, slide into something colder, something that looked a lot like calculation, like she was already drafting her HR statement in her head before her napkin even hit the table. Please, I said, voice steadier than I felt, steadier than I had any right to be, finish that sentence. Whatever I had at home wasn't, what, Derek? The whole restaurant went that specific kind of quiet where 40 strangers suddenly get real interested in their menus, nothing but a kitchen clattering somewhere behind a swinging door, completely indifferent to what was going down out front. Mara, this isn't, he started. Don't, I said. Don't tell me what this isn't. I flew home 2 days early to surprise you. I had a ring in my pocket too. I was gonna ask you to renew our vows. I set the box down on the table, right between the champagne and his half-eaten steak, next to the one he was still, absurdly, holding open toward Vanessa, hand not even steady enough to close it. So let's compare notes. What exactly did you have at home that wasn't enough? Vanessa found her voice first, all brittle and overcorrecting, that practiced room-controlling tone slipping for the first time all night. Derek told me you two had already separated. We hadn't, I said, not even bothering to look at her. But I get why that story worked better for both of you. Derek's hand was shaking now, visibly, the ring box trembling between his fingers. Mara, I can explain. You can, I said. Just not to me. Not anymore. I glanced at the box he was still holding, then at him, and something that had been clenched up in me for 8 months finally, quietly, let go. For what it's worth, you did learn something from our marriage. You learned exactly how to make a proposal look sincere. A woman at the next table put her hand over her mouth. The manager, frozen mid-pour, quietly set the champagne down and stepped back, universal signal for this ain't my problem to manage anymore. Somewhere behind me a busser just froze mid-walk, tray balanced, watching like the rest of the room. I didn't stick around for his excuse. Picked my ring box back up, not his, not the marriage's, mine, the one with my own choice engraved inside it, a choice I planned on keeping, just not for him anymore, and walked straight out of Altamira into that cold February air, Priya's voice still steady in my ear the whole way. I'm out, I told her. In the car. Then breathe, she said. You already did the hardest part. The text started before I even pulled out of the garage. Mara, please. It's not what you think. Let me explain. Call me. 9 messages in 11 minutes, each one a little more frantic, each one landing with that specific buzzing panic of a man realizing, in real time, that the story he'd been telling himself for months just collided head-on with a witness. Not one of them said sorry. I checked. More than once. Vanessa, I found out 2 days later through the office grapevine, told HR the whole thing was a mutual and consensual personal matter unrelated to work performance. A sentence so lifeless it could only have been written by somebody protecting a job title, not a person. Derek got quietly shuffled to a different floor. Nobody got fired. Nothing in their world cracked open the way mine did, the whole machine just absorbed it and kept humming along, like it always does. I drove straight to Priya's instead of home. She opened the door in pajama pants, didn't ask a single question, just pulled me inside, threw a blanket over my shoulders like she'd rehearsed it, and sat with me on her kitchen floor 'cause neither of us could figure out how to make it to the couch. The linoleum was ice cold through my jeans. I remember that too. I remember everything from that week in weird, useless detail, the way trauma apparently likes to organize itself around random objects instead of actual feelings. You didn't scream, she said eventually. I thought you'd scream. So did I said. But somewhere in there I realized screaming would just make the whole thing about him again. And I was so over everything being about him. What actually shocked me, genuinely caught me off guard, was that underneath all the grief, there was something that felt like fresh air. Not happiness. Not yet. Just the absence of that exhausting vigilance I'd been carrying around for 8 months without even naming it, that low hum of always checking, always calculating, always half-believing my own doubt. Small detail I didn't expect to matter, I still had the grocery store roses in my hand when I got to Priya's door. Carried them that whole way without even noticing, the cheap cellophane crinkling every time I moved. She took them gently, stuck them in a water glass on her counter, and neither of us said a word about the fact that they were already wilting. Divorce took 4 months, which people kept telling me was fast, did not feel fast from the inside, trust me. Still had boxes to sort, a couch to fight over who kept, a dog we didn't even have but somehow still argued about visitation for, hypothetically, out of pure habit. Derek moved out in March, apologizing more in the moving truck than he ever did at the restaurant, which honestly told me everything I needed to know about his priorities. Him and Vanessa lasted, from what I hear through the grapevine, about 7 months before whatever they built on borrowed time ran out of gas. I don't know if that's supposed to feel like karma. Mostly it just feels like weather that happened somewhere I don't live anymore. I kept the apartment. Finally took the promotion I'd shelved the year before, the one that meant more travel, not less, and for the first time in ages, boarding a plane felt like freedom instead of an excuse to go check on a life that was quietly falling apart without me anyway. Redid the closet. Gave away every single one of those gray blazers he left behind, all in one trip to a donation bin on a Sunday morning, and walked back to my car feeling lighter than I had in over a year. Priya and I still do wine on Thursdays. Last week she raised her glass and went, to seeing things clearly, and I actually laughed, real laugh, first one in a minute. I saw it clearly the whole time, I told her. I just didn't trust myself enough to say it out loud. That's the part I'm proud of, she said. Not that you saw it. That you finally believed what you saw. I'm not gonna sit here and tell you it's all healed, 'cause that would be the clean, tied with about ending this story was never gonna get. I still flinch sometimes when my phone buzzes late at night. I still notice, more than I used to, when someone's hand lingers a beat too long on a tablecloth that isn't theirs. That watchfulness didn't just disappear 'cause the marriage did. But it's mine now, not my mom's, not some hand-me-down I never bothered examining. A thing I can name. And put down, whenever I'm ready, instead of carrying it silent the way she had to for so long. Here's what nobody tells you about catching someone in the act: the moment itself was never really the story. The story is everything you decide in the 8 steps it takes to walk toward the truth, once you finally let yourself see it. I flew home early that Valentine's Day to surprise my husband. Turns out I surprised myself instead.